I was on an internet forum at one point, and a girl asked an open question because she was very confused about her heritage. She was from New York City. Her father was Italian, her mother was a Jew. Because of this mixing, she wasn't treated as a real member of their culture by either side of the family. I'm sure most of you older and some younger mixed-race people watching have experienced this exact same thing. The desire to be part of something bigger is ingrained deeply into all of us. It's how we survived, evolved, and thrived as social creatures, as opposed to being solitary ones. The first layer is your family. This is probably the strongest. It's a very common phenomena that children that are orphaned and adopted seem to have a serious void emotionally growing up, sometimes even if their adoptive parents provide all the emotional support possible. What do children do when they feel that void? Like an imaginary friend, they often make it up and create a mythology about their past family. Quite often, their parents are aliens from outer space, or they're the children of royalty or celebrities they look up to. I'm sure orphans in polytheism believed that they were the children of gods, perhaps ingraining orphans so much into our ancient myths. The next layer is your heritage and culture, how your ancestors did things, how they worshipped and believed, how they dressed. Many times people fall in love with the idea of their culture and become tribalistic in it, even if they only take a stereotype of it. Religion can often be interchanged with culture, and depending on the area, one can be more important than the other. Lastly is nationalism, the belief that your country is the greatest ever. Lucky you just so happen to be born there. There are good and bad things about connections and loyalties. Many times they give you a sense of belonging. They give you a link to the past. It makes you feel like you are and will be more driven to all work together toward the same goal. There is often a lot of aesthetics in culture. There are many downsides, though. The concept that blood is thicker than water can cause you to give a free pass to someone who is in your group while judging someone who is outside your group more harshly. There may be something your family or culture does that's seriously messed up, an inaccurate way of thinking about reality, much more inefficient, or creates bad habits that can be detrimental. Every culture has these, no exceptions. I love it when I hear something foreign that is just off the wall weird to me. My first joking reaction is something along the lines of, "What the hell is wrong with Japanese people?" Then I immediately have to remind myself of something America does that's just as crazy and realize we're all fucked up equally. However, a person without this ability to remind themselves would stop at the part of "what the hell is wrong with these people," then go on to assume that they're superior to these people. Every group has weird ideas. Our cultures evolve, some faster, some better, some worse than others, but all with flaws. You take a group of people and isolate them and come back just years later, they will have evolved a culture quite different from the one they came from, while keeping much of the same culture. Take a big city and mix a lot of people from all spectrums of culture, and over time, some parts of the culture will mix, and some won't. It will be a free market of memes, and new ideas will emerge. When a child is born, they're a blank slate. They're ready to be filled with ideas. From their parents, they learn a basic grid work, an operating system of ways to think. Every one of these has both good and bad parts to it. You'll never hear an OS user say there's nothing wrong with the system they're using. They'll just say that they prefer it, or it has less bugs than the other system. With this operating system, they'll wrap their perceptions of the world around it. Parents' habits, good or bad, are considered normal and the best way to do something. Their culture, nation, and religion are the best ones, of course. If drinking is a big part of your tradition and family, your chances of becoming an alcoholic may be higher. If you come from an overweight family, being heavy, eating poorly, and abundantly is ingrained and rarely questioned. It's just unconscious habit, and changing it would require a major reason. That's just how it's done. I used to refer to these ingrained habits as psychogenetics, though genomimetics might be a better term. I'm sure there is a psychology term for it. Let me know if there is. Heritable conditioning? If you're isolated from other ways of thinking, such as if you're homeschooled and your only way to meet other people is church, it may be even harder to wrap your mind around how someone else thinks. Amish kids are at a certain age allowed to go sow their wild oats and rebel and do what they want in society, because they only know how to think inside their cultural operating system after their experience, because they really can't fit in. It's another reason why people stay with their abusive family members or significant others. There is that loyalty bond, and breaking it might mean they have to learn to change their operating system of habits. In Europe, where it's not a lot of room to move around, having a conversation next to someone at a urinal is perfectly natural. In the US, that's gay. If you have an option, you will always leave a space between urinals. In Russia, wearing a Speedo is considered sexy and manly. Here, it's gay. In the Middle East and many other parts of the world, holding hands and kissing another man on the cheek is a deep sign of friendship. Here, that's gay. In many countries, best male friends cuddle. Here, that's like the ultimate in gayness. Of course, if you shower or change in a towel in the locker room, you're considered a little weirdo and probably also gay. I guess anything to do with sports automatically gets no homo pass here in the US. Some of these traditions sound beautiful expressions of friendship, but I've been so ingrained in the American operating system, I'm pretty sure I'll never feel anything but awkward holding hands or cuddling with another guy. Many times, parts of the majority of one's family may have psychological problems that gets ingrained in a child's operating system of thinking. Family members of a person with OCD many times have gone along and emulated their loved one's rituals, treating them as absolutely normal. If isolated enough generations later, they could still be doing the same things, even if none of them have the psychological problems, just because it seems so normal and new is scary. Many people think that this form of habit past psychoses is how many religions came about. Hypersegregation is a big problem in the poorer areas of the US and the world. Success is learned and requires role models, or that tiny outlier group that use trial and error to succeed. Most people don't want to leech off society. Healthy people do not want to sit around and be lazy. They don't want to end up in jail. However, in the very poor areas, that isn't even questioned. That's just normal. Prison is like a rite of passage. Welfare is what their mother did, and they were raised with 10 other kids on it, so without malice, that's all they know. Had their mother been given psychological help and not just drugs but therapy, she possibly wouldn't have had all those kids, and her kids would have had a better chance at moving beyond their parents. But now that mindset is passed on. One of being on the bottom rung of society is normal. Of course, the cycle is rarely broken, and the more scarce ways out become, the more the cycle continues. People prefer to judge them and punish them instead of understand them. San Quentin had one of the best and lowest recidivism rates in the nation in the 70s because they realized that most of the people in their prison had no real social skills. So when they got out, they couldn't get a job no matter how hard they tried. So they taught classes in it and other forms of therapy. Funds got cut, of course, with the mantra being tough on crime, and why should they get to have money spent on them? They should be suffering. Well, they were suffering from mental disorders of either their own or from their parents. Changing your thinking from a different way than you were raised is rough. It's part of the very core operating system of your being. It's the frame you think in and can be convinced with. If a person believes something different from you, many times, even if they have all the evidence on their side, getting your brain to wrap around their way of thinking blows your mind. Why most people don't even try. It's why us who are ex-religious tend to be obsessed with arguing about the God question, and people born atheists tend to be completely apathetic about it. I'm still going through 10 years of atheism and learning about the epistemology of science, and reality I should have known, but was completely oblivious to because my core operating system I was programmed with was one of gullibility, faith, pseudoscience, and conspiracy. It makes me wonder how much better I would be at science and maybe have my PhD now making real money. My unique perspective does put me in a position to teach others about my old operating system of thought, but sadly is not really rolling in any money. So what did I tell the Italian Jewish girl who felt left out? I told her that all cultures had their wonderful and completely messed up parts. Reject the bad and wholeheartedly embrace the good. The great thing about America is most of us are mutts. We have the ability to create and recreate ourselves and are not stuck in a stereotype unless we let ourselves be. You'll probably never be accepted by either side of your family completely as one of them, but you will at some point find a group of people who accept you for who you are and love you for who you are, and you will belong. Not because they are blood or from the same culture, but because you are you.